Greg Abbott, we have a governor with that vision, that strength, that purpose, and that energy. He is our indispensable man without whom all the promise and dynamism of Texas now might never come to pass. In my years of working with him at the foundation, I first knew him as a politician, then as a leader, then as a partner, and now I know him as a friend. And I can tell you, he is the first rank in every one of those categories. When we talk about our aspirations for Texas, just know that those aspirations are possible because of Governor Greg Abbott. I could spend all day telling you about what his leadership has meant and enabled in the state, but you want to hear him speak, not me, so I'll let him do that. But I did want to share just a few things. Texas has a secure border today because of Greg Abbott. Texas has ended genital mutilation of children because of Greg Abbott. And Texas has some of the most robust protections for life in the nation because of Greg Abbott. And Texas is going to have universal school choice and education freedom and the best education system in Texas because of Governor Greg Abbott. He is our indispensable man, our successor to Sam Houston, and that's the governor I'm proud to call a partner and a friend. Please help me welcome our governor, Greg Abbott. So many of you may or may not know this, but the Farmers and the Cowboys can be friends, right? The Aggies and the Longhorns can be friends. And the governor and I might have made a little wager on what happened in November 30th, and now it's time to pay my due. So, Governor, I'll turn it over to you.
So, Sindelar was talking real big, trash talking the Longhorns, and was emphatic about the way the Aggies were going to crush the Longhorns when they reunited their game, especially because the game was being played in Kyle Field. No way would the Aggies lose there. And I said, put your money where your mouth is. Put up or shut up. And I set the terms of the deal. I said, if A&M wins, I'll wear a maroon jacket. If Texas wins, Sindelar has to wear a burnt orange jacket. The eyes of Texas are upon you all the livelong day. There's a reason why Sindelar is against the expansion of gambling in the state of Texas. And he's wearing it right now. There you go.
Thank you, Governor.
You cannot take it off for an entire year.
I promise not to take it off till you leave today. All right, thank you, Governor.
Give it up for Greg Sindelar. Doing an absolutely fabulous job, and before she takes off, I want to express my gratitude for Brooke Rollins in so many ways. But just think how cool it is that TPPF was created here, and you are able to create and perpetuate so many transformative policies. But as was pointed out earlier, policies is only one aspect of it. It's the people that's another aspect. And you've been able to also generate great leaders from TPPF, now reaching the height of federal government leadership, and Brooke Rollins serving as your Secretary of Agriculture. Now, if you could, I got to share with you, I would like to share with you something I would like you to take back to President Trump. So we are proudly going along with what President Trump mandated, and is now policy of the state of Texas to identify the Gulf as the Gulf of America. But share with the president that we did it only because we were forced to do it, because I had a far better idea. Right. We all know it's the Gulf of Texas. The other thing about Brooke, and listen, we actually had a lot of fun. So it was Brooke and Helen Kerwin. You were right there moments ago. Where's Helen right now?
She's gone back to the floor.
Oh, go back to the floor. Already back working. But listen, we crisscrossed your hometown territory. Voter after vote, city after city, community after community, talking to the people on the ground about what mattered most to them. And what mattered most to them was electing someone like Helen Kerwin to represent the values of that district. So congrats to Helen Kerwin. Congrats to your mom. So there's several things I want to cover today. Two, I just want to make a couple of short comments about and devote most of my time to school choice. One point that I know is very important to everybody in this room and incredibly important to every Texan outside this room, and that is that we must deliver meaningful property tax cuts this session. But here's the deal. You know, we spent $18 billion last session. We have lined up at least $10 billion more this session. Pouring more money at this cause of trying to buy down property tax rates or increase homestead exemptions, whatever the case may be, is not going to get a return on our investment. As long as we have these local taxing jurisdictions go behind our back and increasing your property taxes even more. That must end this session. One of the strategies we have, and we need more than one, but one strategy that we must pass this session, and that is to say that no taxing jurisdiction in the state of Texas can increase your property taxes without getting 2/3 vote of the people in favor of that proposition. That vote must take place in November, and it must have at the end of the proposition the statement, if you vote yes for this proposition, it will increase your property taxes in Texas. No more property tax increases in Texas is what we need. One quick note that was brought up by Greg Sindelar about the board. I want you to understand the order of magnitude of the change that we've been through in just a 2-year time period. About 2 years ago, in Eagle Pass, Texas, there's a city park there that the Biden administration was processing up to 5,000 illegal immigrants a day. We shut that down by wiring it completely shut. And now there are crossing, on average, less than one person a day crossing in that area. But now that we're working in collaboration with President Trump, we see on average across the entire state of Texas, less than an average of 150 people crossing the border a day. This is game-changing. It's never been this low. And we owe President Trump and his team, like Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem. You got Tom Homan. You know, a real border czar doing a job of securing the border. People are doing things unlike ever before. The border is in great hands for the next 4 years. My work with the Trump administration is that President Trump and I both know one thing. In 4 years, he is gone. He will do a great job over the next 4 years to make sure we secure the border. Our goal is to ensure that over the next 4 years, we do a great job of preparing the border for security for the next 40 years in the great state of Texas. But speaking of the next 40 years, listen, the reality is the next 40 years, the future of our state is going to be hinged in a meaningful way to what we do in this state in educating the next generation of Texans. And that's why I am all in on ensuring that we use multiple strategies to put Texas on a pathway to do a better job than ever before in the history of our state to improve education. Along those lines, you all know what's going on with regard to school choice. But we all must appreciate and comprehend and recognize Texas history when it's made. Because earlier this week in San Antonio, Texas, at a school choice event at a Christian school there, Texas history was made. On that night, Speaker was there. Speaker Dustin Burrows was there. And when he got up on the stage to introduce me, he said something that no speaker in the long and illustrious history of the Texas has ever said. He raised his hand and said that he, as Speaker, supports school choice in the state of Texas. He told the audience that he has the votes in the Texas House to pass school choice this session. That being said, let's talk about a reality. The reality is that those who are entrenched in the status quo do not want to see school choice because it disrupts the monopoly that they have in the education system. As a result, the monopolists, the educators who are anti-school choice, they're going to fight to the bitter end. They're going to do whatever they can, say whatever they can to try to discourage House members to vote in favor of school choice. But you can tell that we are winning. You can tell that the fight is over because there is a threshold in this process that shows you the end is near. And that is when your opponents have nothing else to resort themselves to other than lying about the facts. This isn't the first time this happened. Remember what happened in the presidential campaign. The last 2 months of that campaign, all Kamala Harris did was lie about Donald Trump. She didn't have any valid policy positions herself. All she could do is lie about Trump. And how did that turn out? Kamala got creamed in that election. Right now, the only thing happening by the opposition is lie after lie after lie, or let's be charitable about it, they're just completely uninformed about what they're talking about. That being said, what I wanted to do today was, for one, to provide clarity on some of the issues. I know you know them, but those people in the back may not know the clarity on the issues. Another thing, and that is I've been meeting with Texas House members, and especially with the freshmen. And the freshmen are experiencing something for the first time. They're getting emails or notes or text or phone calls by teacher union members registering their antagonism to school choice. And they said they wanted to be armed with the answers and the responses to deal with that. They themselves wanted to know what the information was. They wanted to have the comfort of knowing they were in the right, but also be well enough to inform that they could respond to their own constituents. So I told these members, why don't you give to me what are some of the most pressing questions that you have, and I will use my opportunity at TPPF with not just a wide audience here, but a wider audience back there to explain to Texas what the questions are and what the real answers are. Question number one, is school choice going to pull money out of the public school system? Another way of phrasing is school choice going to defund public education in the state of Texas? In a word, no. The reason for that is multifold. There is funding that goes to public schools, and that's one pot of money. There's a separate pot of money that doesn't have anything whatsoever to do with public school funding that's set aside to go to school choice. It's the same concept as this. Just as we set aside other money for roads, for water, for power, for the other things that we pay for in the state, we can set aside money for school choice. The argument being made by those against school choice would be the same as saying, well, listen, when you're taking money to build roads, you're taking money away from public schools. When you're taking money to build power, you're taking away money to build public schools. Just completely false. The two are completely separate pots of money. And then as it occurs, this concept, what people are talking about and the way they talk about it is that they say, well, you can fund public education or you're going to fund school choice. You can't do both. Completely false. We have the resources and we have the ability, and we are going to fully fund both public education as well as school choice. The magnitude of each pot is this. When this session ends, we're going to be providing more funding for public education than ever before in the history of the state of Texas. We're going to pay the highest average teacher salary ever in the history of the state of Texas. Per student funding will be higher than it's ever been in the history of the state of Texas. At the same time, we're going to set aside enough that Texas will start a school choice program that will be the largest start to any school choice program in the history of the United States of America. Question number two is school choice only for the rich? Completely false narrative. The rich already have school choice. It's others that don't have school choice. And what this funding provides is the opportunity for everybody, from the lowest poverty level to mid-income level to anybody who wants access to school choice. It expands the scope of those who are now going to be able to access the school choice system. Knowing that a parent of a child in a school may be fully impoverished, but they need a different choice for their child. They're now going to have the ability to tap into that choice. It also does more than any other program to open up school choice opportunities to our Hispanic students, our Black students, the other minority students that in the past would not have been able to afford to go to a school choice of their option. Next question. Why will children enrolled in the school choice program receive $10,000 per child when the state only pays $6,160 per student in public school? Again, complete false premise. The state does not provide $6,160 for public education students. The average funding per student in public schools in the state of Texas is about $15,000, 1/3 more per student than going into the school choice program. And so there are complete false narratives. The way this is argued is educators talk about what's called the basic allotment. The basic allotment is that $6,100 figure. The basic allotment, as I pointed out, is only just above 1/3 of the overall funding that goes to schools per student funding for them to be able to pay their bills. And so it's a complete false narrative. Next question. How will lower income parents afford to send their children to private schools with $10,000 when the average private school tuition is far higher than that? That's false information. The average private tuition among our schools across the entire state of Texas is roughly about $10,000. The median per tuition per student at private schools across the state is about $9,000. The average is a lot higher because there's some schools that are $30,000, even $40,000 per student. Bottom line is there's going to be an abundance of schools across the entire state. that families are going to be able to afford without coming out of pocket a single penny. I'll give you some examples of just schools that I was at recently. I was at a school in Athens, Texas, where the tuition was about $8,000 per student. And so that would cost less than the $10,000 it's going to. I was at a private school in Edinburgh, Texas, where the average tuition was a tiny bit less than $3,000 per student. And you see variances like that across the state. I know for a fact because I've been at these schools. There is an abundance of private schools across the state that parents are going to be able to afford with the private school allotment that's going to be provided under this legislation. Next question. I cannot overemphasize the question and the answer to the question enough, so I'll probably say it twice. I get this question everywhere I go, and everywhere I go when I provide the answer, I get nothing but disbelief by the parents that I'm talking to. Question. Will homeschool families still have control over what they teach their children? And I'll just broaden that. Will they have control, period? Know this. So school choice families fit into two categories. Those who want to participate in the school choice program or those who don't. If you're a homeschool parent, totally your option what you do. But know this, if you choose not to participate, the state of Texas is not going to be involved in any way whatsoever. What you're doing right now will remain exactly the same. No involvement, period. Second, if you decide to tap into the school choice program for your homeschool children, the state of Texas is not going to regulate or change what you're teaching to your child at this time. The parent knows best what to teach that child. The parent will remain in control of educating their children. Next question. Under school choice, will government intervene in a private school's hiring or firing standards, student behavioral standards, or choice of curriculum? In a word, no. The state is not going to be involved in dictating what private schools are going to be teaching. Next question. Why aren't private schools held to the same standards as public schools? I'm going to give an answer a little bit contrary to what people think. There are some different standards. For example, public schools get more funding per student. Public schools get to issue bonds to pay for buildings and stadiums and other projects that private schools do not get. At the same time, there are some, maybe even many private schools that have more rigorous education programs than maybe the public school from which the child comes. The reality is the purpose of school choice isn't to be a duplicate of the public education that a family wants to leave, is to provide an alternative to that education program. Next question. How will rural students have access to school choice when there are no private schools in their area? Another false argument. I mentioned before, listen, I was over in Athens, Texas. I categorize Athens, Texas as rural. If you haven't been there, go to Athens, Texas, and I think you'll agree it's rural. And listen, they have a robust private school there. I'll tell you a story also about the principal of the private school there. The principal of the private school there had been the principal of a public school there and left the public school to go to the private school, and his first grade son was in the public school in Athens, Texas. And what this principal said is that when he came home from school and his first grade son started rattling off four-letter word after four-letter word after four-letter word, the dad got a pen out and wrote down every word his son was saying. When his wife got home, who was an educator herself, they talked about what was going on. They recognized that they weren't wealthy, they didn't have the resources to be able to send their child to another school. But they also recognized it was not right for them as a family to keep their child in a school that was learning that type of stuff. And so they went through the financial sacrifice to do what was right and send their first grader to a school that was going to match the values of their parents. This proved two things. School choice actually is very effective in rural Texas, but also school choice is not for millionaires. It's to parents like this who live paycheck by paycheck, who are going to have an equal opportunity now to send their child to a school that parents believe is best for them. Also, this argument, if you hear this, this argument, there's no alternative in rural Texas. If you can follow along with me for a second, I'm going to it took about 10 minutes just to come up with this list, which is like no time, meaning if I spent more time, the list would be far longer than this. These are small little towns in Texas that are either small towns or considered to be a kind of far out, a distant town, where they all have private schools. Alpine, Athens, Angleton, Alice, Bulverde, Brownswood, not Brownsville, but Brownswood, Edna, Dalhart, Livingston, Paris, Keene. Who knows where Keene, Texas is? Pretty good, I guess a good one. Palestine, Liberty, Sweetwater, Bernie, Jefferson, Gonzales, not Jefferson County, but Jefferson, Texas, Gonzales, Kingsville, Wharton, Warda. Who knows where Warda is? All right, there we go. Are you the principal of the school there? No. Cuero, Snyder, Castroville, Seminole, Floresville. That's just a starting list. The reality is there's a lot of schools in small town Texas that a lot of people are unaware of. And that's under our current system. Supply will create demand. If we are able to establish school choice, we'll have far more schools out there available. It's just going to happen. Another thing in that regard, and this is kind of a detail embedded in all of the school choice legislation that works particularly well in rural settings, and that's the ability to create what are called micro schools. There's kind of another synonymous name for it, like pods and things like that, that parents can get together and form these micro schools in a rural setting in the state of Texas and make sure they're going to be able to educate the children the way that they want to educate their children. Next question. This was interesting. Where do political leaders stand on school choice? Those who are at the national level who support school choice are Donald Trump, Ronald Reagan, and J.D. Vance. Those at the national level who oppose school choice are Joe Biden, Barack Obama, and Kamala Harris. At the congressional level, those who support school choice, Ted Cruz, Tim Scott, and Rand Paul. Those who oppose school choice, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and Ocasio-Cortez. So, as I know there are House members out here today, do you want to stand with Trump, with Reagan, with Vance, or do you want to stand with Biden, Harris, and Obama? I think the pathway is clear. Another question that comes up is, has school choice worked in other states? And the answer is yes, and robustly. Listen, school choice has been working in more than 30 states across the entire country. And one thing that we've seen is there's been no decimation of the public schools in those areas. Public schools haven't collapsed, they haven't been eliminated. In fact, in many instances, the public schools have been enhanced. I'm going to tell you about a study that I saw that is now 2 years old, and I'm sorry I didn't do my homework and catch up about what happened last year. But 2 years ago, there was a report that came out about the schools, the public schools in the United States that were performing the best at the high school level. Which states had the top schools in the top 100, the most schools in the top 100? Number one, I'll forget the orders, Florida and Arizona. They had the most public schools in the top 100. What do Florida and Arizona have in common? The most robust school choice programs. It shows you can have robust school choice programs and at the very same time have some of the best public schools in the United States of America. Two more issues. Well, one is, why do parents need school choice? It's not just a matter of, for a parent, of saying, well, listen, I want to take my child and take the money and be able to go to some private school. More often than not, there's actually a catalyst reason for that parent making that decision, like what I explained earlier with regard to the principal in Athens whose son was coming home using four-letter words. As I've traveled around the state, I've heard so many parents articulate so many different reasons why they were desperate and urgently needing to remove their child. It includes what I call moral-based issues. Parents disagree with the morality or lack of morality in the public school setting. There are situations that occur in every region in the state of Texas where children are bullied. If you're a working mom doing your dead best to put food on the table and pay the bills, maybe working 2 jobs, doing the best to take care of your child at school, knowing that your child at school is being bullied relentlessly. You may come home from work, put your child to bed, and cry yourself to sleep, feeling helpless to be able to rescue your child, the most important thing to you, from the bullying that's taken place. School choice gives that mom the option to choose a better, safer pathway for her child. And then something came up this past week that is an echo of something that comes up literally every week. It was a video from Bel Air High School, which is in Houston area, and the video was of a woman with a group who's reading a letter from a parent there who wanted to stay anonymous, and what the parent wrote in her letter was how her child in school, she had teachers and educators who were assisting and aiding her sexual transition against the will of parents, even trying to hide the information from the parents. That is wrong. No parent should have their child transitioned or harmed by an educator. The simplest way to look at it is this. If you were the parent of that child, do you think that you should have the school choice ability to move your child to another school? Absolutely, yes. Every parent in Texas should have that same right. The last question, the last issue. What is the goal of school choice? I'll ask the same question of what is the goal of these teacher unions who are fighting against school choice? If you listen to what they say, they articulate a single goal: money, 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 money. All they want is more money. I think our goal in education needs to be far bigger than just money. Our goal must be to take the actions needed to put Texas on a pathway to having the best education for the kids of our state in the United States of America. We are indisputably ranked #1 in the United States in so many different categories. It's time we set our sights on a new #1 standard. Texas must rank #1 for educating our kids, and school choice is a path to achieving that goal. We would not be where we are with the advancements that we've made on school choice without TPPF. The members, those involved in policy, those involved in working with the Capitol, but the supporters, everybody in this room has had a role to play to make sure that we've gotten to the point where we are today. But we've still got more to do. We've got to make sure that we do fulfill what the Speaker said, and that's to ensure he has the votes to get this done. When we do that, we're going to have a Texas-sized party celebrating school choice in the state of Texas. Thank you all. God bless you all. And God bless the great state of Texas. Thank you. Thank you, man. Thank you all. Appreciate you.
All right, how about another round of applause for our great governor? And I appreciate everyone's their willingness to look at me in burnt orange, especially my wife, who's a little repulsed right now. But it was weird when I lost this bet. I had so many of our supporters say, "Oh, I have a burnt orange jacket for you to wear." Jeff Sparks, I see you wearing yours. You look pretty good. All right, so thank you so much. It's a wonderful kickoff. You know, I just have a few quick housekeeping notes. There are parking tickets you can purchase in the back if you need those, if you parked here. And let's see, the panels begin at 1:30. So please get to those and get your seat. And thank you so much for joining us at Texas Policy Summit. God bless.